All right, here we have TSL HyuN, the 8-time winner of IPL Fight Club. He is the red Zerg down in the bottom left corner of Antigua Shipyard. And his challenger this week is Byun Prime, the blue Terran, who recently was in the Code S semifinals, having a little bit of a struggle over in GSL right now, but he's got an excellent opportunity here to make himself some big cash.
Yeah, and you know, Prime does still have a lot of strong players, but they've been a bit slipping in Team League. In our Team League specifically, they haven't been doing too hot. They were all killed by parting last week, so you know, hopefully they as a team can start to pull things together. But I think they're waiting, even though they've got solid stars, I think they're waiting for someone to kind of shoot up to that Marine King Prime caliber level, and I'm not talking about like you know, his skill right now, because I'd say Byun is better than Marine King at the moment, but I'm just talking about in terms of popularity, just an icon that they can rally around.
Well, I mean, to be that icon, you kind of have to have more than just the gameplay. And Marine King obviously had stunning gameplay. That's what first, you know, got a lot of attention for him. Actually, the fact that he was named Boxer just at the very start, that's what got him a lot of attention initially. But I mean, he showed some amazing play in 2010 that's kind of carried with him. And he's just like he's just a cute little kid that dominates in StarCraft, and that's, I mean, Reddit was all over it, and you know, Byun, he's got a little bit more unfortunate name than Marine King.
That's right. It is poop.
It is just feces, which is kind of a weird name, but that's all right. It's endearing to some. I actually am a big fan, but you know, you do need that engagement with foreign audiences and stuff like that to really kind of get that popularity like Marine King has.
Nice job by Byun there. He actually saw the drone coming up, so he waited just a couple seconds extra to build a command center, so he made sure that the drone wouldn't harass this SEV for all that long, and of course the drone's going to pay for it for a little bit, so pretty good job. He still will probably have to sneak one more SEV down here, maybe, but no, looks like HyuN's going to give it up and get out of here. Now, of course, we've seen how HyuN plays against Terran players pretty much every time. He decides to drone scout very early, as we see. He decides to go hatch first into a pool, followed up by a gas, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but we're going to see a Roach Warren. Then we're going to see a third. We're going to see a third base at 6 minutes. We're going to see a Roach Warren afterwards. We're going to see Bailing Nest and Lair following that up, and eventually just a lot of tier 2 units if he detects weakness, especially on this map.
Well, he does have one other build that just involves a lot of roaches.
Yes.
That eventually, you know, turns into something else if the roach bust doesn't work, which sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think that's why we do see that 6-minute hatch more often, is because, you know, his roach bust is kind of a little more coin flippy than he likes. Might as well, you know, keep playing to that point where you know you're going to win more often.
Yeah.
So that's why we see the 6-minute hatch and the Roach Warren Bailing Nest kind of follow up more often. But we do have 2 orbital commands coming up for Byun. Byun is slightly less predictable, but he does play a more versatile race with Terran, so he does have a lot more options. It looks like he is going to get up to a factory pretty quick, though.
So, yeah, like we said before, HyuN does have the potential to go for some pretty crazy all-ins. If he detects weakness out of his opponent in a long best-of situation, he will do that a couple of different times. But like I said, if all sticks according to plan, we're going to see pretty much the same thing out of him every single game. Byun, though, you mentioned the factory's already coming up. He decided to just get 1 gas, so if he gets Banshees, he'll be a little bit slower to them. And actually, he's going right ahead, and he's just going to go Marine Tank right off the bat.
Okay, so we'll see how many Hellions he actually chooses to make here. If he watched the games against Gumiho last week that HyuN played, he should know that Mech was more successful than basically those heavy bio compositions. So it is possible that he would be adding on some more factories. He's going to drop it on the low ground, it looks like, before building any Hellions. Or oh no, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the reactor wasn't actually finished yet. Now the factory is going to land, of course, and he should be cranking out 2 Hellions at least.
And he could actually, I mean, there's an outside possibility as well that Byun could go for a big Marauder Hellion push, I want to mention as well, as we see a 6-minute hatch coming up for HyuN. And there should be a Roach Warren. Yeah, there it is, already on its way. He's going up to his second gas for now. He should add on a third here in a bit. And we'll delay a little bit until he gets up to about that 9 minutes, or a little bit earlier than that, I guess, 8:40 layer tech and a Bailing Nest after that.
I mean, I really wonder if it's HyuN's build that is the key to his success, that, you know, players don't just copy HyuN's build, but I mean, why not? Is it his amazing control that actually is the big difference, or is it the build that's just so tight and efficient that he's run through, you know, hundreds of times that he's just, you know, so comfortable with it, he's not going to miss any timings, he's going to just have the most efficient build and get the most units out at once? Or is it just that HyuN, you know, makes better decisions or has better unit control? I feel like the build is a huge part of it, since he does stick to it so closely every time.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. And as we can see, the 8 roaches that he always produces are coming out as well. Byun does have that starport on the way, but it looks like he's going to swap it over onto this reactor very quickly and start powering ahead with a lot of bio. He's got a few Marauders added in there. Hellions have made their way in. They detect the third base. They know exactly what's there, but HyuN already has his roaches out, so those Hellions aren't really going to get too much done.
All right, so Byun's timing so far have not given him any kind of early game advantage at all. These 4 Hellions actually are going to have a really tough time trying to do anything, especially with roaches already out on the field. So Byun did not try to take advantage of HyuN's early game rituals. He is actually just going for that starport now to try and get a big army. I'm assuming he's going to be playing a lot more passively, but then I would have actually expected another command center being started by now. It just seems like he didn't try to be aggressive. He knows HyuN's build, or he should at least, with, you know, all the evidence that we have of previous fight clubs and stuff like that. But he's just going for a little bit better late game with more Marines and everything like that before moving out with a big squad.
And there's 9-minute layer with a third gas on the way now for HyuN. He is taking that third gas actually over at his third base. And he's already got a lot of drones out there, 68 of them to be exact. But look, there's a big push making its way down the map right now for Byun, and this is what he's been gearing up for. And he's going to expand behind this as well and start moving into tank production, so he's got a very well-rounded force. And the upgrades actually aren't too far behind his opponent as well. So HyuN knows he has to get ready for this. He's got the Baneling Nest coming up at very normal time. This is exactly when he would normally produce it, but now he's forced into making a lot of attack units. 20 Lings, 4 roaches on the way to try and be able to hold this off.
All right, so Byun moves forward with a nice scan. Going to pick off a couple of creep tumors, slow him down in that regard first. These roaches actually having a tough time as Stim is finished, and these are some pretty high DPS Marines here. Obviously, the splash damage from the Hellions is helping out as well, and it looks like we are going to have a flank. He's going to pull a lot of drones off the line just to try and save the third base. Roaches on both sides. Lings now streaming in as well, trying to surround everything. The Hellions are going to get taken out first. There's only a couple of Marauders still standing, but still the DPS from the Marines is what's going to do it for Byun.
Oh, when the medevac gets away with just 14 hit points, that could have been a disaster for Byun, but as it is now, it's actually been quite good. He's killed 23 workers. He didn't kill a base, but he really, really brought down that worker count and started to stabilize his economy. And in contrast, we saw last week Gumiho actually had a push that was designed to disrupt the roaches that really like to come out for HyuN that are flying across the map and stop those in the middle and put on pressure afterwards. In this case, Byun actually geared his push around just when all the tech was hitting at the same time. So I think Byun did prepare for specifically that build that you were talking about before, and it looks like it worked out pretty well for him.
All right, and he is actually going to nab another Overlord kill, so HyuN again has to dedicate some larvae, some minerals to getting those replaced soon, as he is supply block. Yeah, there's 3 Overlords at once now in the queue, but these roaches popping out should be able to keep him safe, at least from smaller drops, like 8 Marine drops. He's got Spore Crawlers coming up now as well, just in case Banshees are going to follow up, and obviously providing coverage for those medevacs. Pathogen glands on the way, +2/+2 melee and armor, and roach speed. So he hasn't actually invested anything into the Banelings aside from those melee attacks. No Baneling speed yet, but really he's just biding his time. Probably wants to start looking for a 4th base eventually, but for the time being, he can just kind of sit back, build more units, make sure Byun can't kill him the next time he shows up.
But Byun is gearing up for just such a kill with those 2/2 upgrades, with the multiple barracks being added on. He's going to be up to a total of 7. That's a fair number at this stage of the game. Would expect a second factory in just a bit, unless he's playing. It's risky to play the really high bio count strategy against HyuN because of how many Banelings he can produce in the mid game and how aggressive he tends to be off of just 3 bases. Looks like he may be thinking about a 4th here, yes, and he's going to pick up on this drop at the same time. There's already Spore Crawlers in position, but it's very hard to go toe-to-toe against HyuN as far as the as far as just bio units are concerned.
All right, so it looks like a couple of drones did get thinned out there. The medevac was warded away, but Byun did a good job not losing it. Nearly got himself another Overlord kill as well, but now that the Lings have broken through, they should be able to kill these Marines unless Byun is able to load up, and he's not. There is another contingent just kind of waiting. Finally, it does load up as well, as he knows HyuN's forces are all on the left side of the map. He's going to meet him in the middle and try to pull this drop-off at the third, it looks like.
Okay, well, he may be able to get himself in position, but it's just Marines at the moment. Does he have any tanks? He does have 2 tanks. They're sitting back at home. Unfortunately, this drop is going nowhere in a hurry. All those Marines do get picked up. He doesn't get the medevac, but it doesn't really matter. Byun going to try and put on pressure to this base here on the left-hand side. That he may be able to get. He's very mobile right now, but the problem is that HyuN, if he's able to lock down that army in any way, shape, or form with just a little bit of CC, then everything will die.
Yep, Fungals are actually available to him now. He just does not have the infestors up with the main army at the moment. Single Marine just hanging out in enemy territory. Probably feels a little bit abandoned. At least he has the medevac overhead to help him out if he needs to leave. But HyuN's force is actually looking very scary here, especially with 28 Banelings morphing in the center of the map. Byun a little bit down on supply, but really, his forces are kind of all over the place at the moment.
Hey, look, it's actually HyuN playing with 41 total Banelings here in a second. As the last one does morph in, HyuN has quite a staggeringly large force, and Baneling speed is just about to finish up. HyuN's about maxed as well, reinforcing with another 36 Lings, and Byun does not have siege mode done. He's only halfway finished, and he is going to have to defend with just pure micro and bio splitting, because look at that force of red charging its way forward for HyuN now. Byun sits back, and he hasn't taken too much pressure from the Banelings yet, but he's got to focus those down very, very quickly. Unfortunately, gets a lot of forces locked into position, but he did have a lot of stuff on the ground. He was able to take the first wave of units out, loses the command center though, and now his production's being camped, and this is a bad spot for Byun.
Right, Byun actually pulling all of his SCVs from the natural and main to try and deal with this, but there is just one big fungal. That's all the Lings need to get in and take out all those SCVs. Now we do have a couple of Marines coming out at a time, 2 tanks coming out at a time, but these infestors have replenishable energy. Oh, Siege Tech is finished now, so Byun may actually be able to live through this attack, but we see a ton more Zerglings actually coming in to be able to attack the third. The tanks are going to be a little bit too immobile to allow him to deal with that.
Yeah, and HyuN is always very fine with sacrificing units in order to get damage done, and now he's killed 41 workers. He's caught up to the workers' loss that he had lost before. Siege Tank's actually inflicting some pretty good damage on Byun's own units there, and he does stabilize at the moment. HyuN, though, used all of his gas just a second ago on infestors, and while he does have a 4th base finished up here in the middle, he needs to start taking advantage of that gas income very, very quickly, especially as we see as that Ultralisk Cavern finished up.
All right, so with Ultras finished and Adrenal Glands and +3 melee all being worked on right now, HyuN is putting himself in a good position for a little bit even later game. Obviously, Byun is going to have to try to respond to Ultras as soon as he scouts it, which I'm not sure if he has yet. But with this build, HyuN usually actually ends up with Broodlords at the end, so Ultras could be a little bit unexpected, and if he doesn't have a high enough Marauder or tank count, could actually be dangerous.
Now, with 44 workers still remaining after that engagement, Byun does have a pretty decent economy here, but he needs to win a big engagement. He gets a lot of things fungled, and the Banelings just finish in time. He's still got those same 2 tanks at the back. He's actually got 4 of them in total, so he will be able to inflict a lot of losses on these ground units, but once again, HyuN is able to clean up, it looks like, every one of the tanks. There's just a few Zerglings left. Oh, it's down to 17 hit points and still racking up kills.
Oh man, those infestors need to be very careful in siege range like that. The Lings did not try to finish off the tank, so it ended up doing a lot of damage. 35 kills on that thing in total. Good fungal there to try and escape. Loses an infestor, loses another infestor. No extra fungal, or at least a pretty good split from Byun. It didn't catch everything, but it did finish off that medevac and do some decent damage to the Marines. So it looks like Ling infestor versus just some medevacs and Marines doing a tug of war over the Zelnaga Tower here.
And now HyuN hasn't felt like he could commit to the finally is going to take out that tank, and that's really necessary. It doesn't feel like he could have committed to the Ultralisk quite yet. He got the relevant upgrades in place, but he's producing just a ton of infestors to keep kind of the swarm going forward. If he feels like if he lets off the gas pedal for a bit, then his opponent's going to gain some momentum, and of course Ultralisks take a very long time to build.
That's right, but with 9 more infestors coming out, it looks like HyuN's sticking with that for the time being. With this 4th base up and operational now, he can actually afford it. He is not even going to be gas blocked. blocked. He's actually just mineral blocked at the moment. So once he gets more infestors out, actually he's going to start building more banelings and lings to get this done. So just the mass bio, he feels ultras are not going to be effective enough.
And he did have that, because he produced so many lings just to hold off the forces, he did have so much gas left over. I mean, that infestors did kind of make sense in that regard. Byun now trying to produce a 4th base once again. HyuN just content to sit on his 4, hasn't thought about a 5th. Is this a drone? No, just a Zergling patrolling back and forth, checking for other ancillary bases.
All right, 156 supply to 137, about normal for this point in a game. They have been trading infantry with, lings and banelings so far. Lots of infestors are out now, though, for HyuN, and if he's able to get some good fungals off, this could be pretty dangerous. The lings are going to need to run from tank to tank to try and eliminate those threats as quick as possible, but look at this, fungals going down, infested marines all over the place. Should be able to finish off the remaining forces that Byun has here.
There was so much supply tied up in medevacs as well that it kind of inflated Byun's army a little bit, but now that those are down, he still has a fair number of bio units left. This was a lot of energy that was used on infested Terrans. That's all going to run out here in a second. In fact, he doesn't even have enough for another fungal growth, and those 12 infestors are all he has on the map, so I don't think he got enough damage done there. And Byun has an opportunity to retake control of the middle since so much supply is tied up in these infestors.
All right, yeah, basically infestors that can't cast anything are just a waste of supply, so he will need to keep them alive a little bit longer. There are some fungals available now, at least. No, actually the infestor is getting taken out that actually had the most energy. Now drones are starting to come under fire, and HyuN needs some fighting units. These 5 ultras are going to be popping out from various points on the map. There's one popping out in the middle, but Byun has enough time to actually take the middle and siege up if he wants to.
Well, there we have it. So Byun is going to get himself in position. He's waiting to retake this base. Of course, the way creep proceeds, it's being as annoying as possible and going to sit on top of the space where the command center needs to go for a pretty long period of time. Byun is mined out of his main. He's almost mined out of his natural. He's got pretty good mining left at his 3rd, but this is pretty critical to his continued success, and obviously leaving that as command center so we can turn it into a planetary fortress. And oh, these Zerglings are just trying to run on by. HyuN does lose a lot of lings, though, to a couple of shots, and that is going to weaken this army moving forward. Looks like they will still be able to kill a lot of SCVs, though.
Yeah, at least 6 or 7 SCVs do bite the dust there for the price of some lings, so interrupting the mining is a good tactic for HyuN to try and make advantage of. He does have a lot of ultras here, 5 on the field, so it's going to be an issue of him actually getting them into the right position against the split up bioforces of Byun, not to mention all the tanks that are sort of staggered behind this midpoint here.
Oh, that's right, and Byun could pretty easily fall back from the high ground, and he is limiting the flanking opportunities from HyuN, which is what I really like about his position. That forces HyuN down the right-hand side, and we'll see if this is a small enough choke point for Byun to start to hold this back. He does have those 3 tanks, 4 tanks actually working really, really effectively, and the medevac was healing quite a few units up at the front, and it was allowing the tank for the tanks to be able to sit back and do more damage. But HyuN may have a case of just a little bit too much stuff. We'll find out. He's still got 3 Ultralisks remaining here. The infested Terrans are still up and doing pretty well themselves. The planetary fortress is now under fire, and I'm not sure if that's going to be repaired up in time. Yeah, it looks like that's going to be under fire here in just a second, or on fire. There it goes.
HyuN was doing great there with the transfusions. Those 5 queens that he brought along did a wonderful job keeping the Ultralisks alive long enough to actually get through that entire entrenched position and to actually eventually take out the planetary fortress. So HyuN still mining away happily. Byun, can we just look at the income tab and see what the difference is? Obviously, mules are going to be a huge difference for the minerals off and on, but then the gas count, look at the gas harvesting. It's about 2 to 3 times as much gas income.
Looks like he's
HyuN.
pulled everything off because he does have the 1700 at the moment, and he needs that temporary boost of minerals right now just to be able to stabilize for the moment. Looks like he's floating over his main command center over to that 4th position, but that's always a risky proposition. Nice job here to pick off a lot of workers, and he's actually severely affected the mining of HyuN at the moment. We'll watch that income kind of taper away to nothing here in a moment.
All right, so HyuN actually a little bit mineral blocked. He does have 3K gas that he's sitting on, so he can be spending those minerals as quick as he possibly can. It looks like he is actually just going to dump it mostly into lings right now rather than those more mineral heavy cost units like the ultras. Anyway, it looks like he is probably going to be able to take out another orbital command, except he does not have any anti-air there with him for the time being. Does not want to use that energy on infested Terrans to try and take that out when he could use them for super important fungals a little bit later on.
And it's not a planetary fortress, of course, so Byun can lift for now, but he's running very low over at his third, just about 250, 300 minerals left over, and he's going to need to find a new permanent location. So he has to start moving up to take a defensive position here, and HyuN may think that this is his moment to strike up. I'm not sure what he did with that first Ultralisk there, but it actually bounces away. I still think that that he has enough stuff as he does take out a tank off to the left-hand side. Now these Ultralisks are just ravaging the bio units. Oh, but he didn't reinforce with anything.
No.
HyuN actually came up with nothing, and Byun is going to have enough left over. So those good engagements before from Byun are totally paying off for him, and now he can reestablish control of this mining, and if he can do that, all he needs to do is deny this base, and he wins the game.
That's a bit surprising that HyuN attacked in with just a couple of Ultralisks and Queens. The Ultras obviously get gunned down eventually by those Stim Marines, and the Queens were not close enough to actually be able to drop transfusions, not supplementing it with enough lings because his mineral income is just too low at the moment. He's instead going to try and do a counterattack and keep the mineral mining of Byun as low as possible. He actually GG's out. Wow.
Yeah, he had to. There was no mining being done whatsoever, and HyuN is out. He had no way to defend this position. In fact, those 14 lings, that's it. That was the only army he had. Wow. And Byun is up 1-0.